Pinker?
Yes.
Meek?
Here.
Keel?
Here.
Myers?
Here. Public comment period. Does anybody in the audience have any comments they'd like to make towards it? Address the Police and Fire Commission. Okay, the other part is correspondence. I have a couple things to share. First of all, there was another nominee for the Police and Fire Commission appointment. Some technicalities came up. Basically the gist of it is that there might have been a conflict of interest if the person were to serve on the commission and a current position they have in the county. So another person was nominated last night, and in 2 weeks the council will address that individual. So that's one update, no comments. The other part is I've been on the negotiating team for police and fire contracts. Just wanted to bring you up to date on that. We've met a couple times as a group in regards to the police contract. We have another meeting scheduled with the police union coming up shortly, and we also have our first meeting with the fire union coming up shortly also. So we'll keep you abreast on that. Otherwise, I don't have anything else to the commissioners. Fine, okay. Next item is approval of the minutes of the October 13th regular meeting.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Are there any questions or comments? Roll call. No, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of the minutes of the October 21st meeting, special meeting.
Move approval. Second.
Motion and a second, right? Pinker, any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Accept the approval of Lieutenant Brad Brower's retirement as of November 11th.
Yeah, good morning.
Peter?
I'd like to talk about Brad a little bit since he's been here for nearly 3 decades. So Brad started with the department on September 9th, 1992. He started as a firefighter EMT and became a firefighter paramedic in 1996. During the last several years of Brad's career, he's served the city as a lieutenant. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Breyer was injured in the line of duty, and after several surgeries and attempts to return to work, he was not able to return. I personally believe he had to retire a little sooner than what he would have liked. His last day is today, November 10th, and we thank Brad for his nearly 3 decades of service to the city of Marshfield. I ask for your acceptance of his retirement notice.
Move to accept the retirement of Lieutenant Brower.
Motion by Pinker,
Seconded with
second by
regrets.
Meek, with regret. Are there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Pinker?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes. Brad, it's been around a while.
Yeah.
Approval of promotion of Relief Lieutenant Everett Mueller, the vacated lieutenant position, effective November 11th.
All right, so with Lieutenant Breyer's retirement, comes an opening for the lieutenant position on red shift. Earlier this year, we completed a promotional process for relief lieutenant, and DC. We had 5 applicants for lieutenant, and all candidates scored very well in the process. I'd like to talk a little bit specifically about Everett Mueller in that process. So in his career, Everett was #1 on the lieutenant list. Everett Mueller started with the department on June 8, 2004, and has almost 17 and a half years here currently. He is assigned as a relief lieutenant on the red shift, but is acting as a lieutenant for most of the year due to Fryer being absent. Over the years, Everett has demonstrated he has what it takes to lead a shift. He is very detail-oriented and no doubt will excel in the position. Everett will continue to serve on the red shift as a lieutenant, provided he's approved. Everett has been very involved in various programs and committees over the years. Most recently, he has been active in the technology committee. He's the chair of that committee, as well as FTO apprentice, gear committee, and JFS. So with that, I ask for your approval to complete the specific phase of the process and approve promotion of Everett Mueller to lieutenant red shift.
Motion to approve.
Motion by me.
Second.
Second by Pinker. Any questions, comments? Roll call.
Pinker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes. Congratulations. You'll do well. Need to administer the oath of office for Deputy Chief, Shift Commander Eric Jonas, and Lieutenant Everett Miller. We have those. Jim, good morning.
Want to do both at the same time?
Yeah, we can do both. Yeah, we can do both.
Good morning.
Do we hold hands?
The left hand. I need your right one. Just raise your right hand. Say aye.
I,
Pronounce your name
Eric Jonas,
and repeat after me. Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the municipal code of the City of Marshfield,
and the municipal code of the City of Marshfield,
and will perform the duties
and perform the duties
to which I have been selected
to which I have been selected
to the best of my abilities.
to the best of my abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, fellas.
Thank you.
Do good.
Thank you.
Wish you the best. Thank you, Deb. Next time is to review and approve the proposed 2022 emergency medical services rates for Relay Bay. Accounting department. Morning.
Good morning. So as we are aware with our service contract with LifeWest, each year as part of that contract, they recommend how we should be adjusting our rates for different transportation that we are performing. And this year, what we're hearing from LifeQuest and their knowledge of the industry is that it's becoming more of an issue with collectability when we charge different rates for residents versus non-residents within our services. So they are recommending this year that we do away with that disparity in the rates. And also this year they have, initially our first study changed from our surrounding communities to more of our peers in the state of Wisconsin. And our peers being the level of ambulance service that we provide, which is the highest in Wisconsin with the critical care patient transport. And so they've compared us with other ambulance services that offer that same level of service. And so when we average out the rates being charged to our peers, there are some increases that they are suggesting in order for us to be competitive in the amount that we bill insurance as well as the amount that they're going to reimburse us for. And so that's where we're seeing the driver of those increases in the rates. They did, after, I think just a few days ago, also send a comparison of our surrounding communities. And I think only 2 of those communities offer the same level of care. And we are a little bit higher than, currently than those 2 surrounding communities. But if they are also LifeQuest customers, I suspect they will also be recommended to take that comparative jump in their service prices.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I've got a number.
Go ahead, Bill.
I've got a number of questions.
Sure.
On the comparables that are being used, if you take a look at those, they are predominantly along the State Highway 29 corridor. We have 2 services that, if not routinely, certainly on a regular basis are transporting patients to the Twin Cities. And then we have some others listed on your chart as EMT paramedics, not critical care transporters. I'm disturbed that we're looking at the Highway 29 corridor. There is one comparable in the southeastern part of the state. We have nothing to the north, nothing to the northwest, nothing to the southwest. I'm really questioning whether the comparables we have here are giving us a true picture. In addition, if any members of the public would take a look at this, and there are probably few that would. Finance, budget, and personnel is going to have to take a look at this. I don't know whether they are familiar with all the terminology here, but nowhere in the presentation has any of the terminology been defined. As an example, we have on-scene care. What specifically does that mean if somebody would read this? We have at the very bottom of the list, SCT. Somebody reads that, what does it mean? I don't like the way these things are defined. Looking at these, we don't have any chart listing these in terms of rank order. We don't have any median values. And I would like to move that these be carried over to the next meeting so we can get definitions, get a rank order of these charts so we can see what the median values are, and also have this looked at to see whether there are any significant outliers that should be removed from consideration in the calculations. As an example, Ellsworth area ambulance certainly is an outlier on 2 items. Considerable outlier, they should probably be removed from that list. Likewise, you're looking at Chippewa Fire Protection District, there are 2 outliers on theirs. That's going to adversely affect any averages and certainly any median values to take a look at. I'm also concerned that there is no mention here of the service area, the service volumes, the mileages that they travel, what are they doing in terms of resident and non-resident transports, and resident and non-resident isn't defined here. Like in our case, and I'll refer this to Deputy Chief, if we have somebody within our service area, are they a resident?
Yes, right now.
Right. So we have approximately, 220, 225 square miles of residence. How are these others set up? Then you also mentioned problems in collectabilities. We have no information here why that's a problem, how that's occurring, and so forth. So I'll move that this be carried over to the next meeting so we can have those items taken care of.
Some of those questions, I'm sure I can answer, especially in regards to the definitions. Some of the other information, I know we can get a representative from LifeQuest here for the next meeting to answer those questions, but working with Jennifer and LifeQuest, these are their rate studies, comparing us to other critical care EMS services. We requested the more local ones, assuming that you would want to see local comparisons as well as other critical care services. Collectability is to do with the insurance companies, and again, we were told on multiple meetings that insurance companies are having issues with us charging two different rates. They are moving across the industry to one rate for resident and non-resident alike. That's why their recommendation came across that way.
We have a motion. Do we have a second to hold this over for till the next meeting?
Well, yeah, I'll make a second so we can discuss it.
Yeah.
Critical care, all of these comparables are critical care.
Not
What is-
all of them, no, sorry.
What does that mean?
So in EMS in Wisconsin, multiple levels, starting with your emergency medical responders, going up to EMT, advanced EMT, paramedic, which is the service level we were at 4 years ago. And then we jumped up to the highest level, which is critical care paramedicine. Critical care is mainly interfacility use, but it opens up almost unlimited medications. Our crews can do on-site training with the staff at the hospital and carry medication with a patient from one facility to another that we typically haven't used before. Critical care crews can take multiple drips, medications on vented patients that are very sick. So critical care is, it's the same level of service that LifeLink is. So the highest level we have in Wisconsin.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
Again, just the definition so you guys are aware. The SCT specialty care transport, that is the critical care level calls. That is the highest level for billing. On-scene care, we set the threshold for our crews where if they are on scene and doing a full assessment and care, then the patient will be charged. We occasionally get calls where somebody else might see a person sitting on the ground. Call an ambulance and we get there and the person's like, no, I'm not injured, I was just taking a break. Those people wouldn't get billed. So we try to set the threshold where the patient actually needs our services before we do send a bill.
So that's providing care and associated with the transport.
It may not be a transport, so that particular charge is if we did not transport, but we provided care on scene. Some of the more common calls that would fall into that category would be lift assist.
Okay.
Our diabetic patients where we may get on scene, treat them, and then they're basically they're all better and they don't need transport to the hospital, so they sign off.
Do you have any more comments?
The only other comment, the one area where we did not raise the rate to the recommended was in the area of those on-scene care calls that he just described. So if I could just recap of what you would like more information on so that we make sure we get everything. It's a definition of the terms, the rank order, and the medians. The outliers, for instance, Ellsworth and Chippewa Falls. How geography is playing into this with most of these comparables being along the I-29 corridor and not necessarily our geographic area. And how volumes, miles, and that service area plays into the cost as well as what the collectability is. Have I missed anything? Okay. I think it would probably be prudent to have a LifeQuest representative come in as they've been gathering all of this data as they fill out several of these other clients that they're comparing to.
I've got one suggestion is that maybe we can do this like in August or September, because we're at budget time right now, and I know that you're gonna want something now instead of later, but we could maybe start this earlier next year. Whatever's practical, because I know you need current rates and everything, and it's good to get a feel for it as close to the time to make a decision, but then we wouldn't be under the gun too, so.
So for, normally that would occur, the accounting manager position was vacant, during, from my understanding, February till I began in September, so that is, a little bit of the driver of the delay.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and second to hold this over to the next meeting for information. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Next item is fire service and law enforcement news update.
Lori should have provided you with a number of items. We talked in the past, or at least I have brought up in the past, electric vehicles. Pierce Manufacturing has an electric vehicle. Some sources have told me it's totally electric, some have told me it's partially electric, which is being field tested by the Madison Fire Department. The information I've received is that they've been having some problems with charging.
For the
Okay. Rosenbauer, another major supplier, is now offering what they call their revolutionary technology fire truck. Their advertisement goes, runs on electricity, but now let's talk about its truly revolutionary innovations. It is a truck filled with innovations, everything from command activities to communication. What's interesting about this, we're seeing advertisements about it now. If you actually take a look at the picture of it, it looks really European. And my information indicates that this was brought online in Europe in 2016 for field testing. And at least one of the field testing sites was at Heathrow Airport. And it seemed to be come out very well. They do have a video about this vehicle. The video has subtitles. If your German is good, you can understand the guys in the background, because the Rosenbauer actually is a European company. And the last one is the Rev Group. That's a group which has bought out a number of manufacturers. They have their Eco Idle Tech, and this one is simply designed to have the batteries deal with idling only. So if you have a truck that's parked at an operation for a long period of time, the Idle Tech takes over and you're not using diesel to any extent. The second item, this was just published. This is the 2020 review of violent actions against law enforcement officers. It's from the FBI. And the last item, just to illustrate what's happening in some of our larger cities, as the title notes, Chicago is on pace to lose 1,000 officers to retirement and resignations. In talk with an area chief recently, he indicated that there are lots of people from the Northern Illinois area that are retiring early, and some of them do vacation in Wisconsin, and they could be viable candidates for positions in this state. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions, input? Okay, thank you.
Oh, just one thing to add. Mike and I have spoken about this, and I'm going to make every effort to have some sort of update each month.
an item on the agenda in the future. So if anybody else has anything in regards to technology or advances or trends, be a good time at that point on the agenda to share that information. Okay, the next item is the approval of police department bills. Chief.
All right, good morning. You have two sets of bills in front of you, one approved by Commissioner Myers on the 20th of October, one approved by Commissioner Keel on the 3rd of November. There are a couple items I'd like to point out on page 11K. You'll see a bill for $49,896. This is the fourth payment in a 5-year plan for our body cameras and electronic control devices. I believe it was towards the end of last year, we did switch over to new body cameras at the halfway point. Also on 11K, you'll see a payment of $16,140 to Bullseye Sports for the K9 calendar fundraiser that one of our lieutenants put together. As you know, the K9 program is totally funded by donations, so this type of raffle is very important to the sustainability of that program. That particular amount of money will be offset by the 206 fund, which is our donated fund. So although it impacts the budget as you look at it today, my understanding from Ron Alman is that that will be offsetting in the donated funds. So whatever profit we make will go back into the 206 fund, and that money will actually be used to offset the $16,140. Nothing else stood out as particularly noteworthy, but I'd be happy to answer your questions and we look for your approval.
A motion to approve
So moved.
by Andy, second. Second, Steve. Any questions or comments? No.
You vote.
I have a question. This is about procedure. We have a commissioner who reviews these and signs them, but the actual approval is given at this meeting. Have these bills already been processed for payment prior to our getting full commission approval?
Are they?
My understanding is they have, and that was a question that was raised by Chief Owen at one point. Logistically, I don't know how finance would not do that, to defer the paying or the approval of those bills, but that would be a better question for finance as far as that procedure.
That's been more recent too. For the most part, the minutes used to be approved prior to finance really getting them, but they've asked us in advance to have a commissioner approve them. That's why we've been getting the email saying that they've been approved by a commissioner.
Correct, and I know some of this came with their new software program that really streamlined the paying of these bills.
Yeah. I had the same question in regards to our minutes. Our minutes are going to right now, presently, they're going to the council as part of minutes approvals. We haven't approved them yet, so that's going to be changing starting at this meeting. Because somebody commented on the last meeting and we hadn't even had a chance to review the minutes. The council got them before we did, and we hadn't had a chance to review them from our previous meeting. Some comments that somebody made that were taken out of and addressed at the council meeting. So,
My memory may not be exact, but I thought that the statute requires approval of the commission before payment.
I believe that was the question that was posed by Chief Owens.
Yeah.
Was that procedural part of it, which I think you're referencing is what they're working on.
yeah. Well, my comment was on just our minutes and approving our minutes, but the bills themselves are ahead of this meeting.
Right.
They probably, since we signed off on them, and we all acknowledged it, that they've probably been paid or gonna be paid.
I believe some bills are paid before anyone from the commission sees them.
I would believe that's probably accurate, yes.
Utilities and stuff, they have to be paid.
Yeah, there's often times where we'll receive an email, hey, can you go into the system and approve this bill because it's due You know, I may get that email on a Thursday, the bill's due on the following Tuesday. So then I'll go in and approve the bill and they'll submit it. So that's getting submitted prior to a commission approval as far as, like you said, the utilities.
I think it might be worth talking to either the city administrator or the finance director to determine how they respond to what the statute says. And it doesn't make any difference whether we like it or not, as much as there is a state statute that says the bills are to be approved by the commission before they're paid. And you've all heard my story about how that happened. It's the police department's fault.
I don't know that story.
Well, it's not your police department. In the 1930s, the Kenosha Police Department, in their budget, asked for 4 new squad cars, and specifically asked for Fords, because Fords had the V8, the flathead V8 engine, and were believed to be quicker than Plymouth or Chevrolet. And after the budget was approved, a day or two later, 4 new Chevrolets appeared in front of the police department. And it turns out that the Chevrolet dealer was the mayor's brother-in-law. And it caused enough of a fuss, the local legislator introduced an amendment to whatever it is, 6013 or whatever, that specifically said the commission had to approve a bill before it's paid. Because that way, if the mayor wanted to use city funds to buy 4 new cars, let him do it, but the police department wouldn't pay the bill.
I'll touch base with the city administrator. If he feels it would be helpful, have him attend the next meeting and explain to us what the process is for both of signing the bills and for our minutes.
I don't think you're gonna see a preference on Pete or I's side. I mean, we wanna do whatever.
We'll do it.
Yeah, easiest for all of you involved and to follow whatever, you know, the statutory guidelines. We're not,
Yeah, we only see one side of,
Right.
of Munis, which is their new financial program. So whatever happens on their side, we don't see that portion of it and don't know how that operates. We only get notifications pushed out to us.
It'll be interesting for all of us to get a little update from the administrator or representative.
And I think all of you have, well, not all of you, but experienced that I tend to be real touchy about the prerogatives of the commission. Over the years, they have eroded because no one's paid attention. And this is the kind of thing that I like to make sure we all understand.
Okay. With that note, I have a motion and second to approve the minutes to, the bills.
What? Okay. So let's say, based upon the comment I made, the comment Andy made, we vote not to approve the bills. And they've already been paid.
Well, that happens all the time. That's standard operating procedure. And that's a good question because I've wondered myself, what happens if we don't approve? Not the whole list of bills, but let's say there's a $49,000 bill in here that we don't approve. It's been paid, now.
could I ask a question on that? It would seem to me that when that, and maybe this is just the example you're using.
Yeah.
When a 5-year plan is put in place that you're aware that they're paying $49,000 a year, haven't you technically already approved that? Or is that just a poor example?
Well, as a commissioner, I'm going to say no, but I'm not sure. Yeah, that's just a number. It could be $20 as far as that goes. You know, I think it's worth exploring because I don't think we're following the statute.
To address Bill's question, I guess.
Do we try it?
No.
Let's wait until we talk to the lawyers.
Yeah. I understand where you're coming from, and I have the same questions. And I raised the questions, like I said, in regards to our minutes even. That they're asking questions about our minutes, we haven't even approved them yet. Had we had a chance to approve our minutes, I may have changed something, or asked to change something. But I didn't have that chance because they already had them in their lap. But the finance part of it's even more serious, so.
My assumption is that if a bill was denied in this meeting, I would either take it back to Cindy or you would take it back to Lori immediately. Ask finance to stop payment or try to approve whatever payment went out. That would be the only protocol that I would know of until a decision was made to resubmit whatever the payment was.
Yeah, Bill, we always have the chance to rub their nose in it. But I think we leave that to
another day.
yeah.
Well, I mean,
My recommendation.
we're not putting it off. I think it'd help the commission to have a better understanding where the city's coming in, and the department is as well. Because, I don't know that everybody's in agreement with it, necessarily, but maybe there's something we don't know, maybe there's something that's driving it, or maybe somebody's got a better suggestion, or maybe we should try to change what we're doing now and make it work, whatever work in our mind at least, or what should work, and, yeah.
My guess is that we will find that we're in this situation because of computers. And I think we should stand up to that.
Well, let's vote on this and see where we stand. I'll roll call vote.
Well, what are we voting on? Let me
The
sure.
bills
Between the bills.
as presented.
Oh, so I have to bend again.
I'm not gonna tell you how to vote. Roll call.
Pinker,
No,
Bink,
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, and it's related to these bills. Lieutenant Kepper is gonna be retiring around January 7th. But yet in this billing that we've already paid through the city, they paid $181.10 for uniform allowance for new boots. Now that might seem ridiculous to bring up, but why are we paying $181 for somebody that's retiring to wear boots for the next 2+ months? That's just an example that when this came out, I saw this and I thought, why are we doing this? Would we do this for any other employee that works for the city?
That might be more on the policy side, because I believe that uniform allowance is something that is prorated, if I'm not mistaken.
I know it is for union, but I don't.
So now, if you're questioning whether he should have done that or not, he could, is my understanding. But I wondered the same.
We're in the middle of a roll call, but Steve?
Yes.
Yes. Andy?
I didn't hear Andy's response.
Andy?
What?
Oh, I thought you said,
I didn't say anything.
okay, sorry, Keo then.
I'll say yes, because I don't want to push the edge until we have a chance to talk to him.
And Myers.
Yes. Thank you. Approval of fire department bills.
Pressure's on.
Run with it.
Two sets of bills. One set of bills was reviewed and approved by Commissioner Penker on October 20th. One set of bills reviewed and approved by Commissioner Meek on November 2nd. Nothing out of the ordinary noted or extraordinary. I'm happy to answer any questions that ask for approval.
I have a question.
Can we have a motion and a second to approve?
Yes, I do both.
Okay. Okay, second. Andy?
What are you people thinking
I don't
in
know.
being involved in supporting a youth fire starter group? I
Yeah.
would think that's the last.
Right. So it's funny you brought that up because they are actually renaming what was juvenile fire setters for a long time. So they're in the process of actually renaming this whole program around children who are setting fires, put it that way. This is a whole, I mean, this JFS thing is gonna be across the entire state, so.
Well, I think
I would
it's
agree.
a fine idea.
Sound great, doesn't it? Yes.
All right. There was something else. I gotta look and see. Down here. This four.
In the meantime, are there any other questions by anybody? Wait for Andy.
I don't think so. If I can't find it again.
We'll give you a minute.
Well, my dog ears are paid someplace, but I don't know where, so go ahead.
Okay.
I think they're wonderful bills, and we should pay them all.
Roll call.
Garrett,
Well, following what I did previously, I will vote no.
Me,
Yes.
Keo,
Yes.
and Myers.
Yes.
Bill, it's not that I don't think what you've done is the right thing to do. I think a no vote sends a message. And that's, I don't think there has been a no vote to bills being paid since I've been on the commission.
When I was on the commission, which would be, 20 years ago, there was a no vote, unanimous no vote.
Really?
Yes. And the vote came across because there was the public, at that time, the fire department was paying the public fire protection charge. And it was noted that the fire hydrants in the city were not being adequately cleaned and made accessible to the department. And at that point, the commission voted down the entire packet because of that issue.
Okay. Well, I think we have something to discuss. I suspect the city will be interested in some dialogue.
Police department activities, training reports, and correspondent packet. Chief.
All right, again, nothing short of really noteworthy. We continue to move back into the somewhat normal routine of in-person meetings and trainings. But I'd be happy to answer any questions and would look for you to be placed on file.
On the 20th of the month, prescription drug sorting in squadron. Did we have a good collection?
Yeah, I'll let Lieutenant Esser touch on that. He was present for that.
It's a good collection, but a little bit lower than normal. We took in about, I think it was 390 pounds over the course of time between the spring take back and the fall take back. That's when we do the sorting. Then we took in another 120 pounds on the Saturday, the actual National Drug Take Back Day that we hosted at City Hall. So we took a little over 500 pounds up to Wausau total.
Did you ever categorize those? You know, opioids, non-opioids?
No. It would take an extremely long period of time.
Still be doing
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting also being able to identify each individual, because a lot of times, if you're familiar with that, they'll come into the lobby and the actual bottle is just dumped into the container. And then the bottle's put into a recycle bin. So really what you're looking at is a mass amount of mixed pills.
Any other questions or comments on the monthly activity report for the police department? We will receive those and place them on file. Thank you. The next item is accept and approve Patrol Lieutenant Dennis Keffer's retirement as of January 2022.
All right, assuming we're gonna kind of give him a pass on the boots here, I'm gonna say a few nice things about Dennis. Yeah, Lieutenant Dennis Garfire submitted his retirement from the Marshfield Police Department on the last day of January 7th, 2022. He's gonna remain on the payroll using vacation until January 27th, 2022. That'll conclude his time with the department. Just a few things. Dennis began his career at the department on October 2nd, 1995, and served a lengthy stint as the middle school resource officer. I think it was close to 5 years. He also served as a field training officer, member of the special response team, and a lead officer up until his promotion to sergeant. As you all know, or some of you may not know, the sergeant position was then later changed into a lieutenant, so he's currently a patrol lieutenant. It goes without saying that he's been a valued member of this department in more ways than I can describe. He's largely responsible for the success of our police department Facebook page, of which we have just under 29,000 followers, which is amazing. This is largely due to his ability to put a humorous twist on PD posts while delivering up-to-date information. One of the things I'd like to say about Dennis is I cannot thank him enough for the work he's done over the last year and almost 4 months. You'll never hear the words, "That's not my job." Rather, he jumps in wherever needed and is the definition of a team player. His positive attitude and commitment to the community will be greatly missed. I know I speak for the whole police department when I wish him well in his retirement. It has been well earned. And with that, I would ask you to accept the retirement of Lieutenant Dennis Garfire.
Move to accept and approve the retirement.
Motion, is there a second?
Second, and with regrets, I worked with Dennis for most of his career at the PD. I thought he was exemplary as an officer. He was a good role model to people. His morals and ethics were beyond reproach. That should be commended. And it'll be sad to see him go.
Okay. We have a motion second to approve, accept the retirement. Roll call.
Pinker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Keo,
Yes, but I have to say, he simply does not look old enough to retire.
His wrinkles are showing.
Yes.
Or he'll say he has wrinkles on the inside.
Yes, and I have to reflect on the first time I met Dennis. I was an alderman, and there was a nightclub on the east side here that the neighbors were complaining about the noise, and it was about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So the neighbors said, "We gotta hear it." So I jumped in the car and went down there. I'm standing in the driveway with these people, and Dennis pulled up with a squad car. I hadn't met him yet. And I thought, God, he looks like he just got out of kindergarten. He wasn't very big. He just, I don't know, I want to even say maybe he had a squeaky voice, but he's evolved into, like the chief mentioned, he's a very critical part of the department, and he's done a wonderful job. Yeah. Hate to see him go. Motion carries. Request to fill a vacant police lieutenant position. Chief.
All right, with the upcoming retirement of Dennis, I'd like to begin the process to establish an eligibility list for the position of lieutenant so that we can work towards filling that vacancy. As you all know, this is a critical part of the shift and the department, and moving forward at this time will allow us to better prepare for his departure. One of the things that I'd like to say is that there is a lot of merit in getting this done prior to him leaving. It helps us plan out staffing, it helps us see how the shifts are gonna do and the potential of any type of a cross training or anything like that. So it's really good to move forward in this and have some sort of a plan in place by the time he departs. So with that, I would ask to work towards filling that position and beginning a promotional process for the position of lieutenant.
Motion by Meek. Is there a second?
I'll second.
By Keel.
I would like Tell me what it means to begin the process.
Our policy is fairly open when it comes to promotional processes, and it's one of the things that we're trying to work towards getting a little more consistent. So what that would mean is sometimes these processes can take a little bit of time. You're gonna look for a letter of interest in a resume. You're probably gonna set up an external panel. For instance, in the Detective Bureau, we had an exercise where they presented some cases that they had done that were evaluated from some people. So there are just different steps in the process. All in all, I mean, depending on how quick you're able to move, you could have someone in place maybe in a month to 2 months. A month would probably be short, but by beginning the process, I more so mean let's do the process and get a applicant pool in place. That make sense?
Yeah. Is it gonna be all inside or gonna be include outside candidates?
In my time here, we have never, and this is not by any means to say that I'm opposed to this, we have an amazing pool of applicants internally, and unless we ran a process and we were not able to get someone that we felt could step up or would step up, that's the only real reason I would look outside to fill an internal promotion like that. And I think Lieutenant Esser would agree there's an incredibly good pool of applicants that we prepared to step into that role.
Okay, thank you.
One thing I will add to this is I had a conversation with Human Resources, and there is a little bit of ambiguity on whether this filling of the promotional process needs to go before Finance, Budget, and Personnel. We're working out those details. My understanding was that it didn't. The only thing that needed to go before Finance, Budget, and Personnel was a replacement of personnel, which would be on the patrol side. Doesn't really applicable to this, but you may see this on a Finance, Budget, and Personnel agenda with some other things that I have to go over here yet. But I don't have a firm answer for you as far as that goes yet. And is that your understanding, Pete?
That is my understanding.
So one of the things that we're looking at is trying to get some continuity between the two departments in this process.
Offer to them as information.
Right. I'm confident that that would go through without a hitch.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to fill the vacant police lieutenant position. Roll call.
Baker,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Kale,
Yes.
and Meyer.
Yes. Thank you. Request to approve the promotion of police lieutenant, or police school resource officer Julie Lou to vacate, vacated police detective position.
It's a mouthful.
Two glasses. Okay, chief.
All right, as you know, we recently ran a process for our last detective position when Detective Iverson went back to a patrol position. Matt Harris was given that promotion. So what we're doing is we're operating off the same list because it's a very recent list, and Julie Lou Martinez did outstanding in that process as well. So with the recent resignation, we used that same candidate list in recommending school resource officer Julie Lou Martinez for promotion to the position of detective. Just a little bit about Julie. She began her career with us on July 20th, 2015. Prior to that, she served with the Oshkosh Police Department as a community service officer for 4 years and a police officer for just 2.5 years. At that point, she really wanted to come home and work for the Marshfield Police Department. That was our game. In her time here, Julie has done an excellent job in her capacity as a school resource officer for the middle school. Additionally, she currently serves as a negotiator for the special response team and has recently been certified as a firearms instructor. She's also active in a number of other areas, including our countywide crisis incident stress management debriefing team. I'm confident she'll be a great addition to the Bureau, and I would ask for your approval for her promotion to the position of detective.
Can I have a motion to approve the promotion?
You need a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make that.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions, comments?
Will she be assigned as the former detective who just resigned to special cases, sensitive cases?
That's a good question, and when that, if memory serves me correctly, when that position was made, what we have for the position of detective is one job description, regardless of whether you're a drug detective, whether you're a special crimes detective or a computer detective or a general detective. And this might be where I let Travis, who's been running the Bureau for about a year and a half, kind of pipe in. There's been some challenges with that, and what we really want to be able to do is diversify some of that, having looked at the specialized nature of some of these cases. We'd like other detectives to be able to work these cases as well. Much like on the patrol side, we completely realize our strengths and weaknesses with everybody. So there may be times in certain cases that would go to someone who's more comfortable or specialized in a sensitive crime type nature. But one of the things we're moving away from is making individuals so specialized that they can't work a burglary, they can't work a suicide, they can't work a drug case. So does that sound about accurate?
Exactly what I would say, yeah. We just don't want to get too pigeonholed in that, and so if we need to call somebody in for some of like a suicide or something like that, that our candidate pool is not limited just because we've so specialized the person in a certain area that we can't use them in any general investigative area. So I would, I mean, it's my intentions that she'll probably receive, I don't know if primarily is even the right word, that's probably a kind of a strong word, but she'll receive a lot of those sensitive crimes cases because she's already had some training in that area. But she's also going to get training in being able to go and work a burglary scene or any of those other things that Pat had mentioned. So we're going to kind of work through that with some fluidity a little bit.
Thank you.
One more follow-up to that too, this is probably of interest. So what that does is it leaves both of our school resource officers being promoted into the position of detective. With some things that I'll touch on next year, what I don't want to do is short the road, and I don't want to short the schools. So the plan as of right now with your approval of this detective promotion is to move those individuals to the detective rate of pay and possibly use them a little more than a true school resource officer, but there is no intent to pull them out of the schools. I don't want to short the schools, so they could be there for some time until we work through some of the road staffing issues, given the vacancy of Lieutenant Keffer and the fact that our last recent hire isn't going to be able to start till March. So there's no plan to pull anybody out of the schools at this point. We'll work through that probably towards the beginning of the year. Make sense?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Just a comment that that's the kind of thing the chief should be responsible for. For us to know about it, I think it's important. But that's the chief's job.
Sure.
Yeah, there have been quite a few issues that's been worked on in the last couple of weeks. It's all a matter of what's done when and everything else, but it's up front with information, the changes that are taking place right now. So. Roll call.
Anchor?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes. Approval of the request to refill 2 vacant officer positions created by the retirement of Dennis Keffer, the resignation of Christine Van.
Move to approve.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions? Roll call.
Anchor?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
Just a quick question. We heard Commissioner Pinker suggest that there might be an opportunity in North Illinois because there's a rollover going on for a whole variety of reasons. What sense do you have of what the pool's going to be like for hiring these two?
For these two, well, I can tell you prior to this, because I knew that there was going to be anticipated vacancies. Obviously not being able to hire without commission approval, but we did put out a request for applications. And to this point, we have 16, which is good. That's better than the last 2 times, a little low than I think 3 times ago where we averaged in the mid-20s. So I'm optimistic. And we're also kind of hitting this at a good time as some of the recruit classes are coming to an end this fall. So optimistic. And I've also heard from the tech, I've got I know some individuals down at the tech school that say there's a really good crop of prospects coming through. So we're going to hold our optimism that we're going to do well.
Is there ever anything for both of you that the commission could do to help you recruit?
I mean, advertising is the only way we can really do that. I know fire department's involved in, 2 consortiums as of right now, Chippewa Valley Tech and Fox Valley Tech. Yeah, but besides advertising, I can't think of anything else that the commission could do off the top of my head.
And one of the things we're doing is we do have a small group that's looking at recruiting specifically to work on a video. We also have the benefit of having a lot of our officers teach down at the tech school. And they really do champion our department, and they champion it to the newer individuals down there. One of the things we really like to do is have officers in that, newer 5, 6, 7-year range. I can go down and talk to the tech school, and they'll probably assume that everything I'm going to say is great and come work for the Marshfield Police Department. What we really need are those officers at the level that are coming in. They're just getting into some special assignments. They're just getting SWAT positions. They're just getting field training officer. They're starting to teach firearms, to go down there and really talk to these recruits and say, this is what the Marshfield Police Department has to offer. And that's paid well for us. So,
Thank you.
I'd just like to paraphrase a comment that was made at the ad hoc committee for the 2nd Street corridor. It relates to this. We interviewed a number of consultants who responded to our RFP. And in looking at those, there was a consultant who came in and, in the course of the interview, basically presented, we're here, we can help you. Another consultant came in, we're willing to help you. And the other one came in, we are here to help you. I think in terms of advertising, okay, here's the Marshfield Police Department, take a look at us. We're willing to take a look at you, we're willing to think about you, or we want you. Now, you're qualified, we want you, we're gonna take care of that approach.
You're probably both familiar with stuff on the internet regarding our surrounding communities. I see Wassa just put out a recruitment video recently in fire department, police department, and quite a deal for people that are bouncing around on the internet.
Yeah, we're in the process of working on that. Matt Wolf, Firefighter Wolf is our, I guess, more technically advanced person here. So he's working with that. He actually did our fire prevention video with Freddie the fire truck and won an award. So we are having him work on a recruitment video. And like Pat said, we've all had to get a little more creative because we just don't have the applicants that we used to. So we're actually partnering with Mid-State Tech here in town to try to get a school to work program going through. And of course, we still have a ride-alongs, and that's where we do see a lot of our applicants come through that ride-along process. It's almost like an extended interview for us and them to see if the fire department's going to be a fit for them and see if they're going to be a fit for us. So that's where we actually get a lot of our recruits, and they're local people usually, so they're going to stick around.
You get a good feel for them as well.
Correct.
Then Wood County Sheriff does the same thing. They're in reserve, and they're interested in a position. At least the department's had a chance to feel them out, because they've been a reserve officer. And when the application time comes along, I know they get a couple of them at the same time. So.
Right, and thinking back 20 years ago, you used to have hundreds of applicants for maybe an open position. We're not in that realm anymore. It's a totally different atmosphere.
It's a good point Bill brings up, though. If you reach out to them and say, we want you.
Yes.
The way that rings a bell, just my mind at least. Especially if you're looking at me saying, I want you. Okay.
And you're familiar with some of it's a topic of conversation in the contract negotiation side too, is how do we, appeal to those lateral transfers? That's a big thing right now. And we want to acknowledge the fact that they want to come work here after working for someone else, as much as we want to acknowledge that someone who might have spent a significant amount of time here. I mean, there's value there, there's real value there. So we really have some work to do on the lateral transfer side, which we're doing. So.
Okay. We have a vote on that? Yeah, we did. We did.
No, we need training.
Roll call.
Yes.
Fisher,
Me,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes. Even not having your Diet Coke does for you at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's jammed in the machine out there, what is it? Almost.
Well, these guys can open any.
Somebody got a key for that, Pete?
Yeah, we're almost done. We're almost done. I'm not shaking as much as I thought it would be. The fire department, activities, training reports, correspondence package.
All right, just a few things to point out on here. October 6th, we did hold interviews for potential firefighters and paramedics. We are currently looking to fill one position for firefighter Halloran, who's on military leave for 2 years. And with the recent retirements, obviously we'll have more positions to fill. I think we interviewed 6 people. So that process went very well. Throughout the month, all shifts participated in a hands-on evaluation of different battery-powered extrication tools that are budgeted in 2022 for purchase. All shifts participated in that and had the opportunity to rank them as a shift, and I think it was unanimous to select Homatro brand. So we'll be looking at purchasing those in 2020. Several public education events throughout the month, especially for Fire Prevention Week. Also on October 15th, Chief Owen, DC Bacus, and I met with MSTC to discuss training center plans and moving forward with that process. We have a lot of good ideas and kind of include the PD as well with some of the door breaching stuff and as well. So hopefully, in the future we'll have that up to snuff where we want it to be. Build that into a regional training center that everybody can use. So each shift completed training with the clinic. So at the MRI department, obviously with their magnets and their MRI machines, we don't want to go running in there with metal tools and everything else if there's a fire in that area. So we received some specialized training with the MRI department, which was good for all 3 shifts. Monthly statistics are included in there as well as thank you cards. Otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions and ask that you accept and place on file.
Any questions or comments, fire department updates?
Yeah, 12th through 14th, fire sprinkler alarm class.
Yes.
A number of years ago, I had the opportunity to. That is interesting stuff.
Yeah, they're incredible. Instructor was absolutely incredible. He actually sat on several NFPA committees and chaired, I can't remember which one he chaired, but he chaired one actually. So very good class, very knowledgeable, learned a lot out of that class.
And second comment is about the MRI training. I don't remember or don't know if these gentlemen recall, probably in the last 5 or 10 years, there was an incident at a medical facility that had, and this was close to a major highway, they had their clinical affairs in one building and their x-ray and imaging was in a second building. And there was a traffic incident and a semi drove off the road into the imaging building. First firefighter through the gap in the wall was trying to get to the truck driver, had a halogen tool ripped out of his hands because of the magnets. What is that, 6 pounds?
Oh, probably more than that, yeah.
Just ripped right out of his hand.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of energy in there.
I had that happen with once. The technician was very unhappy.
And then there's on page 18J, there's a thank you card. This is a comment when I served on the commission previously. And this having to involve family and friends. An older gentleman had suffered a stroke and somewhere between the home and the hospital. He was deceased. But what was very impressive, until the family members could arrive, the paramedics stayed with the wife for the entire time. It was 15, 20 minutes or so before they got there. But the family was really impressed with the care that the firefighters demonstrated.
Just a quick comment. What does EMS stand for?
Emergency medical service.
You know, on the chart, fire responses calls for service, that's the largest share of the pie chart. And your critical care organization, that's what you call it. Wouldn't using that name be better than emergency medical service?
Emergency medical services is an umbrella term. It covers everything that would be medically related.
But I would think you'd want to point out the high level of service that you provide. Anyway, I don't know. Central Fire is the Marshfield area, the city, on this chart. Is that correct? We've got Athens, we've got Thorpe, we've got.
Dorchester, Colby, Adams.
No,
Central Fire Service.
Central Fire is an organization, as Commissioner Pickard has said.
It's
Okay.
basically technically a fire district.
It is, yes. Used to be separate departments.
Right.
All right, that's all. Thank you.
You'll receive a replacement file. Approve the request to refill two vacant firefighter positions created by the retirement of Lieutenant Brad Brower and Chief Deputy John Lucarelli.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any comments, questions? Roll call.
Baker?
Aye.
Beek?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes. Approval of the assignment of relief to Lieutenant Lucas Friedland.
We'll go Friedland.
Friedland.
Common spell.
Friedland. Four.
So for this assignment, with the promotion of Everett Mueller to lieutenant, there is a vacancy because of the relief lieutenant spot. That's what Everett served. That was his previous capacity. So following the promotional process earlier this year, firefighter paramedic Lucas Friedland participated in the relief lieutenant process with 4 other members. A little bit about Lucas. So Lucas started with the department on September 7th of 2010 and is currently a firefighter paramedic on green shift. Lucas has been selected as the next relief lieutenant in the process to be on green shift, replacing, let's see here, Eric Jonas once he moves into the position of deputy chief. So actually, Lucas is going to end up filling, so with all the movement, Eric Jonas going to deputy chief and now Everett Mueller going to lieutenant, that opens up a spot for relief lieutenant. That's what Lucas is going to be filling. Lucas is very involved in various committees throughout the department, and some of his committee work includes EMS committee, FTO apprentice committee, and training committee. With that, I'd like to ask for your approval for Lucas Friedland to the assignment of relief lieutenant.
Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Meek, second by Pinker. Questions, comments? Roll call.
Baker?
Yes.
Beek?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes. Congratulations, Lucas. Next item, request to appoint Deputy Chief Pete Fletty to interim fire chief, effective December 16th, 18th, 2021.
Should he be here while we talk?
I can leave
Just plug your
it. Earmuffs.
I entertain a motion.
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I'm just glad we have him to call on.
Yes. Roll call.
Hager,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the confidence. Keep it moving forward. Scott Close. Thank you very much.
Good luck. You'll do well. Okay, review of the next set of policies for the fire department.
Yes, it looks like we have 6 policies for review and approval. First one, so 803 would be patient medical record security and privacy. So this is an update to our current policy 704.3P, patient health information, otherwise known as HIPAA. This policy is in accordance with federal rule. Additions recommended by Lexipol were added in. I think I'll answer any questions you have to the best of my ability here.
Would be consistent with what it ought to be for a couple.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions on that one in particular? Okay.
Okay, 801 is dealing with release of records. So this is an update to our current policy 207.1P, release of information. This policy is in accordance with state and federal rule. Additions were recommended by Lexipol were added. This policy establishes guidelines to assist the department in complying with access to agency record requests as required in the Wisconsin Public Records Law. Policy recovers the request and review process, the production of records fees, records exempt from disclosure, and electronic records, and applies to all agency members with access to agency records, or particularly those likely to receive requests from the public. Again, yeah, we have this. This is just following Lexipol's verbiage.
Okay. Any questions on 801? Okay.
703, photography and electronic imaging. So this is a new policy for us, recommended by Lexipol. The department had a small section related to this topic in our old social media policy, but never a standalone one. The only changes to this policy were added in the last 2 sections under 703.1 scope. So this is just to make sure we're not taking pictures, our members are not taking pictures on scenes and stuff like that, so. Any questions?
I'll just make a comment, having gone through an incident that involved HIPAA rules over at Fox Valley. CEO and Dean. There was a situation where a student became ill, an ambulance was called. The father-in-law got there about the same time the ambulance did. The family was known to several people in the building, and one of them just called him and said, so-and-so is hurt. And anyway, one of the paramedics, I assume they're a paramedic, in treating the young man, made a statement about the young man's condition that the father-in-law took literally. And it caused terrible anguish in the family because they believed the young man was near death. And it turns out that's not at all what he meant. It was out of context. But it was, that was one part of the problem. There were other problems. But what struck me is how a comment between two professionals, two paramedics, overheard by a civilian who didn't understand the context, turned out to be a legal mess. You gotta be extraordinarily careful. And I think this safety coordinator, pick somebody who's good, pick somebody who's detailed, pick somebody who's gonna really pay attention to the rules and help him or her understand, get everyone to understand how delicate these rules can be and how ugly it can get when you mess them up.
Right.
It's a big deal. You know, the state attorney general represents the university system. If you had to pay for the amount of time attorneys from the state spent dealing with that issue, it would have been incredibly expensive. And it well intentioned. Just, they said something that they shouldn't have said where others could hear it and misread it.
Right. I think we read about this every day, people losing their jobs over things that were said or placed on Facebook or take, I mean, you see this stuff all the time, so, yeah, we can't allow that to happen.
That was one of the two legal issues I faced when I was over there. The other one was the judge in Madison agreed to an injunction, the broadest based injunction ever made in the state of Wisconsin. The person could not set foot on any university property in the state of Wisconsin. Any university property. And my wife and I were having dinner, and I saw him walk by the restaurant, and he turned, and he came back in and came around. And he asked my wife, "Does your husband still work for the university system?" And she said, "No, he's retired." "Oh, good, I can talk to him." Because he had been ordered not to talk to anybody employed by the university system. Things get nuts when you don't, it's just. Anyway, I think the policies are good. I think you gotta pay very close attention to the HIPAA rules.
Agreed. Thank you.
Number 900.
900, so that is dealing with illness and injury prevention program. So this is a new policy for the department recommended by Lexipol. We have not had this type of standalone policy in the past. Safety-related items were spread throughout several different policies, so this policy kind of ties all those together. An illness and injury prevention program is mandated by statute and a recognized system to assist in identifying risk and responding to the risks is good practice. This policy provides a framework to not only meet legal requirements, but is also to address practical risk management. This policy is based on federal regulations and Wisconsin law. Should work well for our agency.
Questions or comments on 900?
I think one strong point of having a policy like this in the fire department is you have people who have knowledge relative to fire injuries, illnesses, and so forth. I've had the opportunity to be in situations, and I've also wrote a small piece for professional journals regarding what happens when this sort of program is put in the hands of an administrator who has no safety background. So here we have a department that's safety oriented, and hopefully this, as you were saying, puts everything out there in front without dealing with somebody that, for want of a better term, is an administrator.
And it kind of ties all of everything else kind of scattered all over into one spot,
Yeah.
which is perfect. Any other questions on that?
Okay, 1017.
Okay, 1017, so temporary modified duty assignments. This is a new policy for our department, also recommended by Lexipol. We have not had this type of policy in the past, but it defines the expectations when modified duty or light duty comes available and procedures associated with it. There is no comparable policy in our current manual, so this one's very new to us as a department. But again, recommended by Lexipol.
Questions? Okay,
It obviously reads okay to you.
Yes. Yep.
okay. 208.
208, post-incident analysis. So we've done this after almost every fire or major EMS call in the past. This just kind of outlines it and makes it more of a policy. This is, like I said, we've had this in the past after action reviews, but nothing really formal. It's always done, but like I said, nothing really formal has been said. This policy is recommended by Lexipol as well, provides the direction needed to conduct these post-incident analysis and identify strengths and weaknesses with our agency and to evaluate agency performance, identify equipment needs, and staffing deficiency and training needs. So this goes a little more in depth and provides more framework for us and for our post-incident debriefs or analysis or whatever. So again, this adds a little more structure to what we're already doing.
Okay, any questions on that?
Just a comment. Chief Letty and I had an opportunity to talk about this last night at the council meeting. There is a section 208.4.4 part B. Any close call incident where firefighters could have been injured would be subject to one of those reports. If we have close calls, I suggested that these be publicized as widely as possible for the benefit of other departments. There is a regular column in Firehouse entitled Close Calls, and there's, it covers everything from, falling through the attic floor to being trapped in the basement, hoses exploding, whatever. They're very valuable. Gentleman writes that column, goes through a rather rigorous analysis, what went right, what went wrong, how we can improve. So if we have any close calls, I would urge that they be published in an applicable journal, newsletter, and so forth.
That is certainly meant to shame the department that had the close call, so we can all learn from each other.
Okay. Need a motion and a second to approve the policies for the fire department. 803, 801, 703, 900, 1017, and 2208.
Move approval.
Motion by Andy, second by Steve. Questions, comments? Roll call.
Baker?
Yes.
Wink?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes.
Myers?
Yes. Last item is, are there any items for future meetings you'd like to have?
I would like an opportunity to address the questions of bill pay and statute and all of that at a year next meeting.
Okay.
And I would also like to see a discussion begin regarding the hiring process to fill the chief's position.
Okay. Very good. We'll get some resources in mind for that. Any other comments or questions from anybody?
No, there was a lot in this meeting, having, the most important part of being a chief has to do with the people, personnel. There's a lot of personnel movement in this meeting, and I hope it all goes well in the way you anticipate it will. And you're lucky to have good people to call on to move.
Yeah.
I can't speak for the PD, but I know in the next 5, 6, 7 years, there's gonna be a lot more movement.
And, you know, in a way, that's a problem and it's a pain but it's also a real opportunity.
Yep.
Okay, hearing no objections, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.